Here we are. Welcome to the show. Bitcoin at all-time highs. LivePerson, a fantastic value, $1 stock. Should it buy Bitcoin at the all-time highs? Should it buy this cheap bargain basement stock? What one's going to do better? Where should we put our money? We're here to discuss that and many more things in our investor and trader show. Welcome, welcome, one and all. I'm Rocky Outcrop. 3 things to discuss today in the show are: number 1, the LPSN stock. Number 2, Bitcoin at all-time highs. And number 3, general tips and setups, trade setups as ever in the show. I've got a goal running right now for mid-week short videos. If we get to the goal target, I'll be making short videos, publishing them on my channel in the mid-week. Updates on stocks and analysis on crypto, helpful tips, Zen advice. Awesome to see Natural Fiend Executive and XD in the chat contributing towards the goal. And of course, Johnny plays Obi-Wan, Sunny, Goin, and Minner, and Chimpy Yang getting the ball rolling. Thanks so much, Talia, for making the chat box an awesome place. There's a poll running right now. Take part. It's asking if you're bullish or bearish. And for posterity, when you check back in the future, you'll be able to know that this was the week. This was the week when certain things happen. So we have Bitcoin coming up here and putting in an all-time high at 111,999 on the Bitcoin USDT pair on Binance. Here's the weekly chart for posterity, so you know when you're looking back in future this show what this is. This is another wonderful edition of the Rocky Outcrop show. It's a summertime edition. Everybody here enjoying a wonderful summer, I hope. Having a great time. I've been out working in back-breaking, finger-smashing conditions outside, having a holiday where you do as much as you can. It's what it's like when you've got chronic fatigue syndrome, folks. I'm Rocky Outcrop, trader of many years experience, professional trading coach, and I have chronic fatigue syndrome, and my type of holiday recently, over the last couple of years, has been one where I try and do as much kind of physical work as I can, and it's like, it's healthy for my body, but it really knocks me out. And then anyway, so it's exciting times. So we're all having a great summer, just like me, with beautiful lawns. I think I've got a moth in the room with me, ladies and gents, buzzing around like some sort of Halloween image inside a lamp next to me. Okay, so this is the one we did, chart showing us that for posterity. This is the week when Donald Trump threatened Brazil with 50% tariffs. This is the week when Nvidia soared and became the first company to reach 4 trillion in market value. So this is the week looking back in the future. So there's your news. It's mostly for posterity's sake. In terms of, is Nvidia a company that's been on the rise? For us, it's not news at all. What companies are not in the news that we've been talking about, and it's this $1 stock, and that's the headline of today's show as well. It is LivePerson. It's done wonderful stuff, wonderful things. And although this weekly candle is showing up here as a slightly downward candle, we can see that all we've done is come back to test the previous highs and at the low $1, giving us a solid retest. Fantastic. And we're 1 week now at $1. So last Wednesday we made it above $1 for the first time in quite some time, which is brilliant because it helps with this delisting stuff, and it's not actually going to be delisted, right? What the delisting thing is, if I've just got your attention, you're thinking, what is this delisting thing? Well, you get a letter from NASDAQ and it says, oh, your stock price is too low, make your stock price higher.
Emergency interruption. To celebrate me capturing the moth in such record-breaking time, you should
Jimmy
set a new goal for telling the chat box about your moth story.
Okay, so we're going to get the current goal that's running at the minute run for another 5 minutes or so, folks. Okay, ignore what the timer says. We've only got 5 minutes left on that goal. Then we're going to do another one, and we're going to do a goal where I'll tell my moth story. Because Jimmy captured the moth that was putting Halloween images up there in that lampshade, fluttering around, making loads of noise. So we've only got a couple of minutes left on the goal. See if we get there. Right, this is the chart, right? So it's had this negative looking week, but is it negative? When you know the story, it's not so negative at all, right? Here's the 1 hour chart. And we can see that the price came up towards $1, right? And I'll just kind of mark out a couple of things for us. So this area here that I'm just putting a big squiggle on, that was $1, right? And then markets have come back down to retest it since, and prices are staying above $1. So that's where you want to see it a week after being above the dollar. So this is a celebrate one wonderful week for this company where it's managed to keep the prices up above $1 and retested the resistance from before. Resistance, and here's a wee trader tip, becomes support. Resistance in this case has become support, which is a big upgrade, because that resistance, which is now support, is in at around about $1. That's a heck of an upgrade, ladies and gents. So those are the 3 things we're talking about in today's show. And this is the first question then that people are going to be asking. We just looked at the Bitcoin chart, which is up there at highs. And we've just looked at the LivePerson chart, which is down there at lows. What is riskier of the two? That's a question for you in the chat box and in the comments of this video if you're watching it back later on for posterity. What do you think looking at those things? What is riskier? Is it buying a penny stock, just generally speaking, or is it riskier to invest in cryptocurrency? Like, that could be the way that you answer the question. Is it riskier to buy something which is $100,000 per item, so much money, or something that is only $1? You know, in terms of one, what can you lose, $1 or 100,000? Is that the way you answer the question? Or what's riskier? Something which is at an all-time high, right? What goes up must come down, or something which is at a low, which has gone down so far, what could happen is it goes worse. This is a question often which is asked then by traders. What is riskier, to buy something which is cheap at the lows or something which is expensive at the highs? Put your comments in the chat box, but my quick answer for people is that of course it depends on so many things. If you were to just open up a chart at random and say this one is at lows, this one's at high, random, all random, then riskier it's the one that's at the lows, because the trend, if it's a trend, then you stick with the trend, it's your friend. But if you know something about the companies, then maybe it influences things, or if you know something about the market it's in, or the story that goes behind it. If the question boils down to trend, and we are looking at lows on LivePerson or highs on Bitcoin, for example. Now, when I say Bitcoin, it could be another cryptocurrency if one that you're looking at is at all-time highs, or another stock that's at all-time highs if you're making a comparison. For instance, Nvidia, which has become the first ever $4 trillion company, as we see in the news headlines today. So this instead of saying like Bitcoin is at its highs, do we ask the question, say Nvidia is at its highs? You can swap out the narrative in this discussion for what you're looking at, but we're taking these two examples. And if you're looking at trend, then the question here is LivePerson at the start of a trend and Bitcoin at the end of a trend, if you believe that what goes up must come down and what goes down will rise again, like the Cobra? So you'd be saying perhaps LivePerson's at the start of a trend, Bitcoin's at the end of a trend. And these would be completely reasonable arguments. Let's just open up a chart and take a quick second to put some technical analysis to this question. This is your Investor and Trader show, by the way, folks. Hope you're having a good time. And we're all going to be doing other analysis as suggested and requested by people in the chat box and so on in today's show. But let's just take a quick look at a chart here to put this question into some context, right? Let's bring up first off the Bitcoin USD chart. This is going to be, let's say, the daily time frame to put this into a bit of, we're going to bring some data on at the charts now, folks, so brace yourself, some data's coming on the charts. But we want to look at the picture and see what the squiggly line is telling us about the trend and so on. Here's the squiggly line. This is the upward trend, so that's a pretty good picture. We can see it's going up and up and up. So that's the broad view. If in doubt, zoom out. Okay, so let's then zoom back in again and ask the question about a smaller time frame to understand then if it is at the end of a trend, because we saw there was a long trend there. Perhaps it's at the end of a trend. This is what people then want to figure out when they're investing in things at highs and so on. Right now, for instance, we've got a line here I can draw across the top of Bitcoin and say this could be what's known as a double top. I'm going to put DT in there for short. That could be a double top. Could be. Let's jump over to this is confirmation bias in action, by the way, folks. Let's be clear. I made the proposition is LivePerson at the start of a trend because it had been going down previously, and is Bitcoin at the end of a trend. And I'm then confirmation bias leaning towards finding a bearish picture here on Bitcoin and a positive picture on LivePerson. Transparently doing this just so we can put context barriers around what we're talking about, and you can get some purchase on the information, because this is all how you do your investing and your trading, how you think about markets, how you can make the best informed decisions. And hopefully you're getting some value. You hit the like button on this video and you come back and watch some more if you're just tuning in here for the first time. But we've got a really core audience here that's loyal, fantastic traders, and you are surrounded by in the chat room right now. And if you join our Discord, people who are trading with big money all the time, profitably and successfully for a living. So it's a great place to be. And this could be, you could say, a double top. We'll just jump over to the LivePerson chart and see if we can find a little bit of context, right? To put the same thing, transparent as I said. We've got a lot going on this chart, right? I'm just going to, for the purposes of this show real quick, just remove all the drawings here so we can take a look, zoom back out here and say, okay, so this was a downward trend with our down. So this is, distinct to the other chart we just looked at, right? Then we had this area at the bottom. Could we call it like overall in the bigger picture, even bigger, broader time frame? Double top? No, not a double top, but a double bottom. Could it be that on that type of idea? But let's do the same thing and go down to lower time frame to take a look at what we have here. And could we make the same sort of argument that recently we've had another double bottom just in here? So that's some light technical analysis to add context to the picture we're looking at. There is a bullish picture to be said there about this. And there is definitely something to be said about amazing things that can happen in breakouts on the top side when you see what looks to be like a double high. So we're going to get into a positive case for what could happen on the Bitcoin story in just a moment, folks. But to finish out looking at this question of look at this question here of is LivePerson at the start of a trend and is Bitcoin at the end of a trend? What if we were to say then that LivePerson has some technical factors to back that narrative up? And what if we were to say that there are some short-term ideas where there could be some elements of risk, but that's exactly what you would see at all-time highs? So let's ask again the question. Just to answer this whole thing about confirmation bias. Because we did bring this up and I was being transparent. Confirmation bias on this story. Like, we want to be transparent. This here, we can actually see that it kind of, there is a question, it does check out though, like we've got confirmation bias, but with LPSN, is it actually influencing our minds too much? And we can give that one as it's not, right? It's not overdoing it. Let's check then here with Bitcoin. Is it at the end of the trend? Are we overdoing it? And this is maybe where we find that the confirmation bias might actually be in play. So let's go back and double check just for a second the narrative, the story here. I have a phrase. It is what it is until it is what it isn't. With regards to a cheap, so to speak, $1 thing compared to a really expensive $111,000, $112,000 thing, there is definitely an argument to be made in terms of there's a very low amount of a cost to entry to take part in LivePerson, and it's super exciting, and it has exponential possibility to grow, because going from $1 to 2 to 5 to 10 is nothing. And we look at its history, it was up there trading at multiples of that, okay, tens of multiples of that. Looking up there towards $69 is actually a really realistic target within its own price history. And you can extend that and look even further, and there's a realistic target, $137. So could Bitcoin 137x? Well, it has in the past already, but could it do it again from here in the next sort of few years? Not looking like it's going to 137x. But could this cheap stock do it? So we're looking at high risk but high reward, right? So that's cool, just to clear the smoke out of our house. We know that there's a high risk but high reward opportunity, which is backed up with some technical analysis, and we know we can look into the fundamentals of the company and understand the story behind it as well. And we know that the downward trend, the longer, bigger picture, that downward trend is looking very weak on the larger picture story, because you'll remember on this, we looked at the lower term in terms of, is now a good time to buy? That's the lower term time frame. It's shown we've had some bounces from the low, gone up, broken past what is actually a prior resistance, as I was explaining before. This was actually prior support here, which then became resistance. If we just look carefully, then operated as, again, resistance, because what was support becomes resistance, and vice versa. And then here, as we discussed at the start of the show, it's become support again. So we have some technical factors there which are saying, okay, here there is support that became resistance, downward trend. We've then broken past that resistance. It's now become support. It's happening at $1, which is a great psychological level, and it obviously gets past that delisting notice. So that's really great stuff. And we can also then say, how does that pan out on the bigger picture? And we can say that it looks like maybe there's a double bottom there as well. So that's a great piece of information to have to back up the story. Confirmation bias is starting to kind of get a little bit of cracks in the walls of that argument. But we can recognize still that there was a downtrend. And what we can say about it is it's very weak. A weak downtrend currently in its history. This piece here, right, is nothing like this piece here. Okay, what you have is a big boot, right? So you shove your leg down into the boot, and then you get to the shoe area, it comes back up, and you've got this great big leg on the chart. That is very different. The foot, as you know, being a human being, their foot is very different to your leg. This is not the same conditions, different story. Great. I think this is like ELI 5 level, but also high level top analysis. For everybody's getting something out of this. And we checked our confirmation bias. And in actual, what we're doing here, by the way, folks, it's for if you're a seasoned trader, this is continued professional development. We're looking and asking the question today, as you know that you have to on your daily trading, am I experiencing confirmation bias right now? And looking at it and saying, there is this downward trend, we can see that there, and looking at various factors, and we're basing our risk management here and psychology around clear levels. That's very important. So we've sanitized that out of this process. Let's jump over, as I said, and take a look at how Bitcoin fares up, because that was the one that was a little bit kind of maybe questionable with regards to the trend being at the end. Because what we can see here is, yes, this could absolutely represent a double top. Absolutely. And it could also, as we put in all-time highs, represent an area where you had a big sell, in at the high of 112,000. And it seems to be there because over here we had a previous high at 112,000 or thereabouts. Prices rebounded off of that, came up, tried again, put in lows, came up and tried again, and this time have gone ever so slightly higher, but that's an obvious natural place for there to be sales. So the question obviously then is, has there been any real evidence then to suggest that this trend has turned around? There is the possibility to say that there has been a double top. However, it's nothing confirming that yet. To actually confirm that, you need to see prices that are below 100,000. So right now, you're certainly sitting pretty. It's definitely far too early to say that that's the case. We're still trading up in a trend. And then in terms of the bigger trend, you're looking at this story continuing. Like, can the story continue that has been in place for a long time? And it's like, I can extend that story a bit further, and I can zoom out, extend it further, and zoom out and extend it further. So just when you thought that story was like, oh, you can't base things on some look, right? Maybe you can't for your entire life, but if you had done it non-stop for the last 3 years, and then if you'd have done it non-stop for the previous year and a bit before then, you would have been doing pretty much A-okay. So let's just base it on sort of being reasonable here, and this would still need to see prices below at least 90,000 before the idea of the trend is your friend until the end of the trend has been defeated. At all-time highs, bit of kind of anxiety, people wanting to sell because there is no better time to sell when it's at the maximum profit it's ever been at. It's a completely rational way to think. So seeing that happening is fine. The question really becomes, what happens if prices push way beyond that? What happens if in these situations where you could be asking, have we had a double top? What happens when prices push way higher? Okay, so let's clean up the chart so that we can make this nice and clear what we're talking about, and look for a similar example. Reminder, Bitcoin USD chart. And what we're doing is we're asking if this double top here is enough to turn the story around and say it's the end of what has been an extremely long upward trend. And we want to look and say, well, at previous highs, what happens when you break them in terms of what could be in store? We saw a move previously up towards this, what could be described as a double top at 107. It's 111 now, so that's a very small move compared to what we've seen in the past. Here, this area, when that was broken, prices went up all the way to here. And that is much more satisfying. It's like, well, what size does that come from, that type of move, here to here? Let's measure it out with an actually just draw a line on it and lift it up and say, where does that come from, that movement there, that amount, where does that come from? How does it get up that high? And compare it down to here and say, well, lo and behold, it's this amount. Now, I could go on all day and show you numerous examples of how this type of thing works. But you might be understanding what crazy mysticism is behind being able to draw these lines and see where moves can come from. Is it all just hocus pocus, or what's it based on? Well, first off, what we're actually doing here is trying to see if we've got confirmation bias against the opposite of the idea of this, right? Just to be very clear. So we're actually working in the opposite way of that, and it's far more scientific. Secondly, what we're looking at here is how prices move, and can they do the same amount of movement they did in the past. What we're saying is, can the past repeat itself? Now, there's drawings that go on charts of information. It gets like complex, but the basic question that I've just asked is, can the past, which happened here, repeat itself to go up there? And it did. And the question then is, can it happen again? And it did. And when we look at this expression of this and how it takes us to the trend line when prices can go down, then we know that it's the past repeating itself. Very simple, very simple. It looks technical, it sounds technical, it's like an architect. Very simple when you make it simple to understand. So the question then is that I said, well, what would be the danger of assuming that this was it? What would be the danger of assuming this was it with Bitcoin? And it would be if the same thing, amount of movement, which we saw here, could happen again. Is that not fair? I've just set that argument. I think that's pretty fair to ask that question. And to say this is the danger of getting trapped in confirmation bias at all-time highs. Now, so let's just revisit. Could it be a double top here? Yes, it could. Has it done enough? Has it done enough downward movement to say that that trade is confirmed? It's less risky. It's the narrative that people are sharing, it's on, it's a move, it's happening, let's jump on board, let's take some of this, ride the wave. No, that's not enough's happened yet. What's the danger of being wrong? Well, the actual outcome of this is 160,000. I'm just rounding up from 158. There's 160,000. That's the cost of being wrong on this. 160,000 to move up 50% plus from where the prices are right now. So we'll revisit our sketch and go back to that quick question of asking, is this confirmation bias? Might be. So how are we going to sanitize this, and what did we just do? Well, because we checked the information with some data, what did we just do? We're going to always remember to ask these questions, and you can see them at the bottom of your screen here. These questions. What is the trend? What is the strength of that trend? What are the macro factors at play, and what are the narratives driving the price action currently? For all information about regards to the factors regarding this, influencing these things, we have a Discord to discuss this all the time. It's free to join, and you can talk about this non-stop, and we do constantly in there. It's a wealth of information. The link to it is in my description. Like I say, free to join, do that. And I talk about them frequently on my channel. I've discussed it lots of times this year, all about the way that tariffs and so on have been affecting things in advance. So one of the things, like, just to, always bring some credentials with me, one of the things that we're talking about currently in advance, of course, is going to be the next GDP figures will be bumper positive ones. And it's like, oh, anybody could say that. Well, no, the reason we're saying that is previously we said that the last ones were going to be negative because of the imports. And we worked out the science behind it, explained what happened, why the economy shrank by 3%, and actually doing so with those sciences, we proved the previous predictions. And then we've used the same science, and I've got a channel, episode of my channel explaining GDP, how it's calculated. You should go and check it out. It's in my channel history, my live show channel history. Just check it out right there. Explains all it perfectly for you to understand, and we're using the same method to predict future. So all this, anyway, that's all happening. These are the macro factors. It happens on the channel, happens in the community. Join the community for free to discuss it. And it also, a lot of it boils down to narrative. The next page on my document here is blank, and that's the page for you to write your own story if you're a trader or an investor. If you're doing trading and you're interested in growing as a trader, of course, my brother and I also have a course, and you can find a link to that in my description as well. That'll teach you all about this type of technical analysis that I've been using in the show today. And I'll review, this has been looking at the structure in the market. And there's various ways of doing this. Now, what could I have used? I could have answered some questions about the strength of the trend by understanding and using the RSI tool here. It does so much more than just overbought, oversold. Recently, we had highs on the first half. In the first part there where you say double top, right, on the RSI. Then we've come back up and we put in highs again, and the RSI is way lower now than it was previously. That's a wealth of information, right? Now, if I were to explain these things in a live show, what would end up happening is you'd be like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed. You don't need that level of information. It will overwhelm you. But we have a course that explains it all to you. Link in the description, and you should definitely take it. And you can chat about these things, as I say, in the live, in real time, with each other in the Discord. Link in the description. So I'm going to just check my live chat here and see if we made it to the goal, which we did, which is fantastic. And we had to set up another goal. Of course, it's going to have to be a decent one here because, come on, going to have to be the moth story. This is, it's good for me. It's good for me to explain, to talk about things that have happened in my life. It's good because, yeah, you think the information is healthy. Jimmy's just confirming with me, giving me that support. When your bro says, "Yeah, remember that time that thing happened," and you should definitely relive that. And it's your brother. And remember, it's your brother that's suggesting that you do this. So this is something that is a worthy goal. It's a worthy goal. Can we make it there? And if we can, we'll do a quick chat about the moth story. But if we don't make it there, then it's still there for another time. Another time to relive that. And Jimmy, I'm sure Jimmy will be keen to remind me to tell you about it. That moth was flapping around in there, and Jimmy came in and he got it like, who you gonna call? Moth busters. Instant. Oh my goodness. I have absolutely undervalued this story. I was hoping to put the goal at a point that we wouldn't achieve it, and Jamie is now laughing at me because he's saying that we're going to achieve the goal. We're going to end up achieving the goal. There was me thinking, I'll need to know. Remind me next time, folks. Remind me next time. The goal is live currently. The goal is live right now currently. You can take part in it. I've set it up. I'm not back out of it. It's live. If we can make it, I'll tell the moth story to honor Jamie and his wonderful moth busting success. The contents of today's show, folks, has been using this technical analysis to answer a question about confirmation bias. But let's just also go back and review what we opened up with, right? Because we've answered this question, and really it boils down to the main question that people ask at any time: what's riskier? Should I buy now? Should I buy high, sell higher? Should I buy when it's low, sell when it's high? What is low? What is cheap? What is expensive? And to understand these things, you also have to understand you as a trader. And that might sounds like it's a non-answer, but the detail really does come down to how you intersect with trading. So just to make this a little bit easier to understand, if you were the type of person who had a trading style which involved buying and holding things in low tax accounts which mature and perhaps cost you no tax or lots of tax cuts, a lot less than otherwise, in a special account with a brokerage. That's a completely different set scenario to somebody who has taken just some money. They're totally happy to lose. It's not for their retirement or planning. They're just taking this money and they're investing it in the here and the now, looking for a different type of return on a, say, like $1,000. Like it's like not going to really change their life to lose it, and they're going to try and get big rewards. That's a very different person, right? So what is riskier and what type of behavior is going to intersect with the thing you're investing in? So that actually is important as well, but we've answered it from a technical basis too, in terms of, are we experiencing some sort of confirmation bias? Because if we see a breakout on Bitcoin happening, would you sit on your hands at 120,000 or 130,000, 140,000 if the prices did go as high as 160? Or would you buy in at some point along the way? How would that happen? And again, part of that is about how you as a person would be. But you can see that the 50% type of potential exists. So would it be that you'd see that happen and invest in something even riskier, like altcoins, right? We could have 200, 300, 400% returns. We talked about something last week on the show, which I think is not a problem to bring up again. Over here on Solana, where we're saying we have this inverted head and shoulders potential. And I made a joke, right? And this is one of the other ways that you can do technical analysis. So today was purely looking at structure, trend. That was it. Structure and trend. I did talk about double top. It's not really a chart pattern, in the same way as this is, which would be an inverted head and shoulders. And we talked about this last week. So we said, here would be, and I'll use the actual drawing tool this time so we can draw over last week. You can see it happening in real time. That's where we started off from, just in terms of how this went. Might have been on a 4-hour time frame or a different one. And we came down here and it ended just there. So now this end part was me predicting, right? That was me predicting. It's been less, it's like that was what we were saying could be happening if there was a breakout, but it wasn't to be. As you can see, the prices actually took a little bit longer to get up there. Oops. And here we are here. So we theorized last week when prices were challenging that area, could it break out? Could that be the scenario? It's taken a little bit longer to happen. And we spoke last week about the 4-hour time frame taking time to play out. So here we are, a week later, perfect time to celebrate. LivePerson has been above $1 for a week, so let's celebrate, talk about technical analysis and how things could be. There's plenty of other coins that you could be looking at. Now, if there was a 50% potential rise to go into all-time high space with Bitcoin, what sort of potential could there be on a chart like this? Well, the target from that inverted head and shoulders, which is a bit more complex of a chart pattern, but I'll not overwhelm you, takes the prices up towards $200. That's where the target would be. Now, what that would then do is put the prices where? And we've answered this question, so this is kind of like a bit of a test for all the newbies. The experienced people know what I'm talking about here, and I'll just draw it in real time so you can see here. But if you're watching now, you'll be thinking to yourself, I suspect I know what Rocky's about to do here. I'll just extend it over a bit here and say we had resistance, we had support. Again, it was support again, by the way, a couple of times in there. And then we had resistance, right? So you can see that would take us up towards resistance. Now, if that broke, the next move up could, of course, happen again. And maybe, instead of trading one, you're trading something else because you can see a correlation. Again, like I say, there's amazing things happening out there in the world. Great stuff that we talk about in the show. Requests for technical analysis, using whatever flavor as well that you like, are possible with me. Best to get in touch in advance, actually, as well, if you really want to kind of talk about things. But this is the answer to that question. So what is riskier? I'm sorry, I gave you the correct answer as opposed to the shorter answer. the really short answer is, of course, wait for confirmation on your trades, learn to trade, get advice longer term. Don't try and just put it all on black and hope for best or whatever. Don't gamble. Blah blah blah. Those are the real those are the answers. So take us back to the start. Then we had 3 things to discuss, which is of course LPSN stock. Number 2 was Bitcoin all-time highs, and number 3 was of course general awesome tips and setups, which I gave you one of, and of loads of tips and setups and tricks along the way. Now we were as well looking at other things. We've got chats happening in the chat box as well because it's a live show. If you're watching this later on and you're wondering what am I missing out by not watching live, there's great comments like Curve USDT tried to break 55 cents last week, went to held support 49, now back, and it's at 56 cents, that type of thing. So let's just have a kind of look. It'll help put this conversation into context. The comment comes in from Minner. Shout out to Minner in the chat box, who's of course our amazing teaching assistant. A couple other shout outs I should give in this moment, of course, such as towards Merrick, another wonderful teaching assistant that we have in our community. Who are teaching assistants, you might ask? They're volunteers, experienced volunteers, traders, active traders themselves, who are really, really, really generous with time and knowledge to those who are in the community. On the school side, right, we all help each other out. This is a story from last week that's come to fruition this week. We talked about various levels in here and the potential for breakout. We're on breakout watch. We can see here that prices have, of course, moved higher than they were last week on this breakout watch. Fantastic. Great to see. Now the potential for this to go up higher, let's put in a bit more granular detail so you can see some of these lows. You're talking about a trend, right? That could have ended with this move outside. And it's such a big question, it deserves a bubbly question mark with, of course, the dot there of the question mark right on the question. That is a major level. Could it break and take us up to the next major levels? And prices so often work exactly like this. And as I said, this is just a simple sample of what you can do as an analyst to improve their entries and exits as a trader. But there are many other tools, one of which being the RSI, as I showed on my chart before here. Other tools that you can take a look at include volume, Bollinger Bands, the moving averages, moving average convergence, divergence. You can understand concepts such as momentum, volatility. You can understand risk management, chart patterns, candlestick patterns. There's a huge wealth of information for you to understand, and that's those things. Rather than making things think too complex and melting people's brains, save that information currently for people who want to learn, be serious about technical analysis. But I use all the same influences to give you the answers here in a simple to digest way. This is a great target to aim for. It's a 50% move up from where we are if this high can break, which in and of itself is this other 5% move up. This type of thing is absolutely happening right now, live, real time as well. That's from the chat box. So it's cool to have that information. That's what you're missing out by not being here for a live show. But of course, put your comments down below. If you would have said something and you're watching this later, what would it have been to take a look at? And I'll see your comment and hit like on it. So we're also going to take a look at something that was requested in one of those amazing messages that came in. By the way, there's 3.5 minutes on the goal. We are it's a sorry site for moth story lovers currently. Pardon? Yes. So Bernard asked about SPY. We're going to take a look at that, and we also had a question earlier on talking about Carvana. Was it not Carvana? Somebody asking about Carvana. Yeah. So people asking about could LivePerson do what Carvana did. This was one of the stocks that was brought to the trading attention of the trading community world, first off by my brother, and we need to look back quite a way to see the amazing rise that this thing had. So well done, TradeSpot, and absolutely check him out if you haven't already. If you're wondering who he is and you're looking for links and all that information, like I say, join the Discord community, and you'll also find a link to my course in the description, but you'll also find a link to my brother's channel on YouTube, so check that out. This is a story which is associated with a trend line. It looked like it could maybe break it, and it's come back up here. It's retested off the top of it. If there is a decline here, we'd be looking to see retracements back down to any of these areas, sure. But what are the numbers we're talking about here? From down here at around about a few dollars, just let's call it $3.53, up towards current prices of $351, 100x. And the question in the chat was, could LivePerson do what Carvana did? And if you were eagle-eared, eyed, paying attention, or if you're going to scroll back to the start of this video and watch all of it having tuned in at half time, hi, welcome to the show, good to catch up with you. I actually mentioned this earlier on, and I said that LivePerson's trading around $1, and the target on it is up at $69 as a quite achievable target in terms of its former price history. It's also a good thing to look at in a market which is growing, so bigger picture, how much is the market itself going to grow that it's operating in if it's looking to achieve growth? Well, it's about $15 billion right now, and it's going to be at least $150 billion in 10 years' time at minimum. People are predicting, not people, but like, you know, serious professional, high-level, top-level PhDs, government advisors, researchers, everybody, they're saying at least that growth is coming. All the economists, at least. So, could it do it? Yeah, it could definitely achieve what it had been valued at in the past. Could it then go to 100x from where it is? More than, it'd be 130x. Or indeed, lots from where we started talking about the stock. Yes, it's already up. It's already up 100% or more. Can it go thousands and thousands percent like Carvana did here? Yeah, absolutely. It definitely could. Because this is an example, as you saw, Carvana, of a stock that went up 100x. So could LivePerson do the same? Yes, it absolutely could. We know there's precedent for this type of thing. But instead of it going back up to targets such as I said, reasonable targets from its previous price history at $69. What if it went 10x its previous value? What if it went 10x its previous value? Just as a sort of thing that, like, just to put it into a context, what if we saw something that was once priced at up there at a high around about $1? This isn't a long enough chart for XRP. XRP started off at like 0, right? Started off at 0, and then when it started trading, it was 0.0000, right, or whatever, 1. And then it went all the way up towards $1 until eventually it expanded its popularity, became listed on this exchange here, and it reached a high at $1. And then prices dropped all the way down to 30 cents. And people were sad about it. And they thought, this is the story's over, this game's over. We're going all the way back down to where we started off at. This is XRP, which is a cryptocurrency. And a few years ago, you seemed thought to be kind of mad to like it. Just generally speaking, in the cryptocurrency world, people are mad compared to regular people. But then within the cryptocurrency world, XRP people, way madder. Now it's part of the US reserve treasury of cryptocurrencies, right? Among an elite group of just 5, it's one of them. So not only has it gone past its previous thing of $1, it actually went as high as $3.40, which is 10x from a previous price. 10x from a previous price that it was at. Now bear in mind that this chart really should start down here, go all the way up. What we're saying is that in the past, the stock price of LivePerson went up from lows and then went down to lows and has then gone up again higher. And could it go past that from its previous prices? Let's kind of just put that in context. I can tell the moth story another day. So we had, it started off, and this was high price, let's just review, around about $10, it was higher. Then it went down to 0.06 okay, lost a lot, $9.94 its value. Then it went up to $72, okay, that's a big increase in terms of percentages. So could it do the same as it's done in the past and go that much further? Or indeed, here's another question, could it 10x from a previous price? So let's just have a quick look. Could it 10x from a previous price? This is 10 times 72. It comes up to $720. And on this chart, that's only around about where I'm drawing this line. It's only there, only up there. Okay. And you'll remember our measuring stick trick from when we did all of our analysis previously. How about I just take this line here? It's a rough line, it's not the full distance, it's just a rough line. It's not the full distance, it's just a rough line. That's not the full distance of what happened in the past. What does it take the prices up to? Well, you can see that this line, which is not the full distance of what happened in the past, takes the prices up to $372. And I think when you've seen something like that, it starts to warrant a little bit of a more accurate assessment of where the prices could go to. So let's just take a little bit more accurate line. This is not picture perfect absolute accuracy, but because our little quick test deserves some scrutiny, I thought we should take a closer look at where it could go to. And what do you see? This would take us up to $720, which is 10 times the price. So when you ask the question of could it do it, I didn't think you were looking for 720x, which would be 7 times better than Carvana did, when you ask could it do what Carvana did. But to say that Carvana was the precedent and that we've looked at other examples such as XRP along the story, if you want to see older price history, it's available on the internet. Just take a look, you'll see exactly that. And then we've done the analysis previously in the show looking at how these size moves can happen. So we've based it on real stuff from real technical analysis, and then we've answered the question in 2 ways and came back with the same result. Okay, the same result. We've come back with the same result. This was one way to ask the question, and I think it's a pretty good way to start and ask the question. It's a fairly new, but then still a heck of a lot better than a brand new trader. This is a sophisticated enough question to ask. Absolutely. So well done if you were asking it like that. And that's number one. And then number 2 was, of course, to take us up to this target. Do we have a second factor? And we do. We know that that is simply all of the analysis that we did today about the size of moves and seeing that this could happen. It's all in there. It's all in there, folks. That's the story for today's show. I think we've pretty much come to the end, but there was one last thing that we're going to talk about before we jump away from today's show. If you are actually having a good time, you want to celebrate it, send any donations and all that sort of crack to the links in the description. I appreciate all the support that people do. I love being out here giving like high value information, entertaining, and looking at positive, great stories. Why would you be looking at a great story? And I think that there has been a reason about why you should look at good stories written on some of my charts for a while. The way up here, we noticed we had a big checkpoint along the road, which was when the world became sane again, frankly. That was back when SPX pushed up to about 5,800, 5,900 levels. That was a big difference. We made it back into a correction territory instead of bear market. We predicted back then we should see prices up at all-time highs of 6,200 and that we'd be feeling a heck of a lot more positive. There are some issues coming up, right, worth mentioning for people, and we had these drawn out on the charts. There was a 90-day extension on tariffs, right, which ends which ends in July, which was back then. This type of stuff can kick in, can come up a cropper again. We've had a quiet week, but we do see 50% tariffs being threatened on Brazil. The repeat of these stories could happen. Why? Not because I'm saying, oh, everything's going to repeat. I'm saying because 90 days ago, almost to the day, Trump said there was a delay of 90 days, and here we are. So let's just be clear-eyed and level-headed about all the decisions we make trading-wise. Look at the narrative, the macro, the bigger picture, the trend and the strength of trend. That is a trend that's up over the last while. It has been positive, and I wouldn't stand against this thing running. Look out for headwinds. Keep yourself savvy, and let's just say hi quickly to the sponsor of our video. Sponsor of our video today is Little Man. He's the Parkside Boys coach, motivational coach for the Parkside Boys. Parkside Boys here. Parkside Boys, and the professional here with the motivating stuff. Oh, I got a big thumb that's appeared on the screen. That's cool. How did that happen? The Parkside Boys here to help with all your needs. All of your needs. We're 5 out of 15 towards the goal. It's going to have to be a goal for the next video. The poll here, we're ending it. The results are coming in. End the poll. Let's see how many people voted. The question was, are you bullish right now? Good participation in the poll. We had 86 votes, nearly 100 people taking part in the poll this evening, and you are feeling bullish with 83% of them saying yeah. And you made this show possible. Appreciate you all, and we'll see you again next time. Parkside Boys! Hit like.